Rich and Mike Show, Flagler County's hometown sports show. Here are your hosts, Rich Carroll and Mike Licio.
Yes, it's another episode of the Rich and Mike Sports Show. Good Saturday morning, Flagler County. And a good Saturday morning to you, Mike Licio.
Hello, Flagler County. Rich, I don't like football anymore.
You give up. Time to move on. Time to find something else to do with my time because I cannot figure this game out.
Nope, not at all. And you're going to find out how much I didn't figure it out in a little bit.
That's right. Referring to his NFL football picks, which we'll get to in a little while. But last night, only one team in action as the FPC Bulldogs. They were on their bye week, so we had the Matanzas Pirates at the Ship. A big game against Seabreeze, a chance for the Pirates to go 4-1 on the season. A lot of good vibes, good feelings about the Pirates going into that game. They were on a 3-game winning streak, and Mike, that game was one of the most bizarre games I have ever seen. It just, you could not predict what went down last night, but Pirates end up losing the game 21-11 in just, I don't know, one of the oddest games I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was, because on paper, there was a clear favorite in the game, and in the newspaper, there was also a clear favorite in the game, and yet that is not how it ended up.
No, it's not how it ended up at all. Pirates turned the ball over 5 times, which, I would say, just to put a number on it, at least 95% of the time, if you turn the ball over more than 3 times in a game, you're going to lose that game. Yet when you watch this game, and Mike, you'll go over the stats here in a second, the eye test, they, as a football team, they seemed so inferior to what the Pirates could do. And the Pirates were running the ball up and down the field with no problem at all, up and down the field. But you had the Sand Crabs with being the ultimate example of bend but don't break. Most of those turnovers happened when the Pirates were driving, and it looked like they were going to get into the end zone and score a touchdown. So it was just an odd game where you had 5 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles lost. It was crazy. But just by the eye test, if you're watching that game, Pirates looked like the better team. It just wasn't happening for them.
And it just wasn't. They moved the ball. They actually had a couple yards shy of double the yards that the Sand Crabs had in just 2 more plays. In fact, the Sand Crabs had more yards from the 3 interceptions and the fumble. They had more yards on those returns than they did on offense the entire night.
Pretty incredible. So how about those stats, Mike? Paint the picture with the numbers last night.
So 121 yards rushing for the Sand Crabs. They came in averaging 86 yards a game. They had 74 yards passing, which almost equaled their season total. In the previous 3 games, they'd thrown for a total of 75 yards. On the other side, the Pirates threw for 277. They ran for 105 on just 15 carries. And in fact, if you take out quarterback runs, there was one running play that was a keeper. The others were just scrambles or sacks. The Pirates had 9 carries for 110 yards rushing. So that's, I think, we're just to jump in, I think that is the glaring thing, is they averaged over 12 yards a carry if you take out sacks and quarterback runs. So that were not called. So I took out the scrambles, I took out the sacks, and they averaged 12 yards a carry last night. But they only ran the ball 9 times. So they had 39 passing attempts, 4 quarterback scrambles, and 2 sacks. So that means that out of the 54 plays, they called 45 passing plays. They ran 9 times. And that's what's shocking about it, is the run was effective, and Seabreeze wanted to control the clock. Seabreeze had 31 minutes of possession. That's unfathomable.
Oh, yeah. They dominated the time of possession. And with the, you'd expect you'd have that pass to run ratio when you're trailing by a lot, right? Oh, hey, we're down 21-0, so we got to put it up the rest of the way and see if we could get back in this game. For most of the game, Pirates trailed 7-3. So really no excuse not to run the football there, and with the numbers show that they didn't run the football. And again, the eye test, you look at how easily, mostly with the pass, the Pirates were able to move the ball up and down the field. Seabreeze, they scored 2 touchdowns on some of the wackiest plays. They had an 85-yard fumble return for a touchdown, and then they had an 88-yard interception return for a touchdown. That was most of their offense was on defense. So, yeah, just going back to the point about running the football, you felt like you were in the game most of the way. So down 7-3, there's really no reason not to run it.
And like I said, if I ran through all the Matanzas numbers and took away the turnovers, you'd say these are good numbers. Average 7 yards a play, 7 penalties for 74 yards, and they did come in some bad moments late in the game, and we'll talk about that as we go on. But that was a season low for them.
Yeah, most of the penalties, I think, came in the fourth quarter.
5 of 9 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down. They were really good at, like I said, they even with the sack yards added in, they averaged 7 yards a rush tonight. They averaged 10 yards a completion. Cole Walker threw for 277 yards. He's now over 1,200 for the season. But the turnovers, 5 turnovers. You can't be -4 in turnovers. It doesn't matter who you're playing, as you learned tonight, because Seabreeze did what they had to do to win the game, but on paper they were not the better team. But with 4 extra opportunities, with 2 defensive touchdowns, which, by the way, take away those 2 defensive touchdowns and it's an 11-7 game, they were the difference tonight. And I said it before, and I said it a little bit on the broadcast. They had a lot of guys playing both ways, and a lot of times when you have teams have players playing both ways, it's a lot of offensive players who have to play defense. Seabreeze is made up of a lot of defensive players who had to play offense, and it showed tonight.
Yeah, it certainly did. And what was that number, Mike, about the difference between Seabreeze in the first half and the second half as far as the scoring and the opposition?
Coming into this game, Seabreeze had outscored their opponents 21-20 in the first half and had been outscored 60-10 in the second half.
That's an incredible number that the Pirates were not able to take advantage of last night. Definitely a disappointing scenario for the Pirates. Now you look at it, and the whole game came down to this, really, and it's amazing. With 5:17 to go in the third quarter, the Pirates were facing a 4th and 5 from their 40-yard line. They decide to punt it away, and they literally don't see the ball again for 11 minutes. The whole game is gone. It was one of the most incredible drives we've ever seen. Mike will break down the numbers for that drive, but for 11 minutes, Seabreeze held on to the ball, and then at the end of that drive, when it looks like the Pirates are going to stop them inside the 10, they commit a roughing the passer penalty. And that set up the score for Seabreeze, and they go up 21-3 and just about won the game there. But, Mike, that was an incredible drive. They held it 5:17 left in the third quarter, and the Pirates didn't see the ball again until 5-something left in the fourth quarter.
5:49 to be exact. 17 plays, 60 yards. So just about 3.5 yards a play. Literally the definition of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. That's 10.5. That's a first down. And that's basically what they did. 17 plays, 60 yards. The longest play on the drive was 13 yards. The next longest play was 8 yards on that drive. 11 minutes and 28 seconds. To put that in perspective, a quarter in high school football is 12 minutes long. If they hadn't scored on second and goal and had to go to third and goal, they would have had the ball for an entire quarter of the football game.
Oh, man.
It was amazing. And they threw one pass, and the rest were runs. It was just a team. I take that back. They threw 2 passes. But it was just a team that imposed their will on Matanzas, which was quite shocking, to be quite honest. It wasn't like they were being dominating for big chunks of yardage, but they knew we need to get 3 yards, and they knew they could get 3 yards at will. And that's basically what this drive was. I mean, I can go through the plays. 5, -1, 7, 2, 8, 2, -2, the 13-yard play. 0, 7, 2, 8, 5-yard penalty. 2, 0, 0, penalty on Matanzas. 4, 1. There was only one remotely explosive play on the drive. It was just jab and jab and jab and jab.
Just running clock and continuing to get first downs. And by the end of that drive, I'm sure the Pirate defense was exhausted. And you can't really kill the call or the decision to punt the ball at 4th and 5 from the 40-yard line because you expect to see the ball again with a decent amount of time left in the game. There's no way you expect a 17-play drive that's going to last for a quarter. There's no way you expect that's going to happen to you. But punting the ball there at 4th and 5 at the 40 basically was the end of the game because they didn't really see the ball again. They didn't see it again down by 2 scores. They didn't get it back till they were down by 3.
Yep, and they had one possession after that, and it took them 2.5 minutes to score. And when Seabreeze got the ball back, even if Seabreeze had gone 3 and out, and you used all your timeouts, you'd have probably gotten the ball back with about 2:50 left, down 2 scores. You would have to have scored a touchdown, which took you 2.5 minutes last drive, and gotten the ball back and kicked a field goal in about 2.5 minutes time if they had stopped Seabreeze, which Seabreeze was able to run out the clock. And it was demoralizing, I have to imagine, for the Pirates because, it was like I said, shocking is the word because I watched every snap that Seabreeze took this season. I watched the entire Spruce Creek game. I watched the Halifax game that they won. They won because of defense making plays. They had 200 yards rushing in that game, and they had like 25 yards passing. I watched the Rockledge game last week, which I'm still in shock by that Rockledge. This is just how Seabreeze is, maybe. They just have a shock factor to the way that they play the game because they were up 7-6 on a good Rockledge team, not as good as some of the Raider teams in the past, but a good Rockledge team. They were up 7-6 at the half, held them to 36 yards. And Matanzas didn't do that bad. I think Matanzas had 198 yards in the first half. Rockledge had 425 yards of offense in the second half against Seabreeze and scored 41 points.
Well,
the Pirates, not so much. The Pirates had, in the second half, the Pirates had about 180 yards of offense and scored 8 points. Seabreeze outscored them. Seabreeze, again, we talked about it. They're getting outscored by an average of 20-3 in the second half. They outscored Matanzas 14-8 tonight.
Well, you know how you stop a team from going crazy on you in the second half? You make sure they don't see the ball.
They had the ball. Drive. They had the ball for 17 minutes in the second half. 17 minutes and 34 seconds they had the ball in the second half.
17 minutes out of 24 minutes they had the ball.
Out of 24. If you had the ball in 17 minutes in a college or NFL game, which was a 30-minute half, that's pretty good. You had the ball for 4 minutes more than the other team. In high school, that means you had the ball for 10 minutes more than the other team. And it's, like I said, it was in some ways impressive. My brother, he is a guy who has always believed the only solution to running the ball is running the ball more. And, while I'm ever watching a game, I send him, I'll tell him like this game had a 15-play drive, whatever. So tonight I sent him that 17 plays, 60 yards, 11 minutes and 28 seconds of clock. And he said it might have been the most beautiful thing he's ever seen.
Well, people are into offense these days. You even see the sport at the professional level anyway, make every rule change to benefit the offense. But I guess I'm a little old school in that respect where I do enjoy a 9-6 defensive struggle. That's where you really get a lot of drama-filled endings in a lot of these games. So I have no problem with 3 yards in a cloud of dust if it leads to a drama-filled ending.
No, and I feel like I was telling somebody the other day, I feel like I'm stuck in 90s football. Run the football, play defense. I said, I never think anything's pass interference. I always think everything's pass is not pass interference. But I said, I must be stuck in 90s football. But I will say a little bit in the NFL, it's kind of defense has made a comeback. It definitely has in the college game. College scores are way down. And some of the most exciting games we've ever done have been low-scoring games. I remember a game where FPC beat DeLand 11-7, and I couldn't have been more exciting. FPC beat Seabreeze 10-3 one year. That game was drama-filled. Matanzas against Creekside in 2015, they won. They lost 7-6.
I mean,
and it was an epic game.
how exciting was the FPC 7-2 win over Mainland last year?
Absolutely. And also 2 years ago, 2 years or 3 years now, when actually, wow, time's flying. It was 2020 when Matanzas had the playing game against New Smyrna Beach, and they beat them 7-6. Those games are always epic, and this had the makings of that. But the Pirates, just because of turnovers, they couldn't get that one play to get them back in the game. And when they finally did, it was too little too late.
Yeah, it sure was. So the Pirates, they fall to 3-2 now on the season, and they have their first district game next week against, that great program to the south, Mainland, the Mainland Buccaneers. So that's quite a tall order for the Pirates heading into next week off this loss, Mike.
Yeah, the Buccaneers coming off of a 20-16 loss against Spruce Creek a week ago, that they're going to be ready to take that out on somebody, and that somebody might be the Matanzas Pirates. I really felt like coming into this game, I had some confidence that they could give Mainland a hard time, and I don't have a score from them. They played Coffee County in Georgia, and Coffee High School is a very big physical team, which is something else that might bode well for the Pirates, is that they're coming off a stretch where they played Spruce Creek, Coffee, and it back-to-back weeks, and that Spruce Creek game went down to the wire. That Coffee team, last year they beat Mainland 10-7. They are a big physical team, bunch of big country boy offensive linemen, because they played St. Augustine 2 years ago, and they played Mainland last year, and all they did is they just line up and run at you, kind of like Seabreeze did tonight, but they did it with a bunch of future college linemen. They just come at you, and so maybe you get a chance. You might still have a chance against the beat-up Mainland team, but if you play like you did tonight, it's going to be trouble. You've got to get off the field. You've got to protect the football. And we could tell early on there was a couple of drops, there was a couple of bobbled snaps, then the fumbles started happening. I wonder a little bit, and this is just me, this is Mike talking out his reader time. I wonder a little bit, playing back-to-back road games, having such success, were they maybe they were feeling the pressure under the home lights? Was there a little bit of, maybe not pressure, but feeling like you wanted to show everybody that, what you did on the road, you wanted to give the home fans that same show, and you were trying to do too much? Is that possible? Am I overthinking this?
No, I don't think you're overthinking it. I think that's definitely a possibility. I think it's a possibility. Maybe they were looking past the Sand Crabs a little bit after the success and looking forward to the Mainland game. There's no way to know the answer to any of these questions. You try to find some type of reason. Sometimes there is no reason in sports. That's what makes it exciting. That's why you play the games on the field, because regardless of what the rosters look like or what the stats are saying, you still have to play the game on the field to get the result. And the result of last night's game at the Ship, absolutely shocking with what you saw, with what Seabreeze had coming into the game and what Matanzas had done before this game. So a lot of question marks. We don't have the answers, but I can tell you that was one of the most bizarre games I have ever seen. Two of the touchdowns, again, that Seabreeze scored. They scored three of them. One was an 85-yard fumble recovery return for a touchdown and an 88-yard interception return for a touchdown, both by the same team the same night. That was most of their offense, and then you had that epic drive in the second half, just 17 plays, almost the entire length of a quarter. Mike said it. They held the ball for 17 out of the 24 minutes in the second half. That's why you play the games. You never know what's going to happen. So the Pirates, they have Mainland next week, and across the way there, Mike, across town, FPC, they were on a bye week, and that's where we're going to be next week. We're going to be with FPC at Sal Campanella University coming to town. How about that one?
This will be our third FPC game and our second university game this year. University You want to talk about a team that's having to rebuild. They have 44 of the 57 players from last year's roster are gone. They have 13 returning players, not 13 returning starters, 13 returning players. So they have struggled a little bit. Matanzas, they gave Matanzas a tough game, but Matanzas ended up winning that one going away. But FPC struggled too, and we don't know the status of Caden Birchfield. We don't know the status of Darius Simmons, who is still fighting through an injury. Had a 60-yard run, but then left the game later on in the game. They actually had their fourth string quarterback, sophomore JV quarterback Bobby Starr, playing the fourth quarter against Lake Brantley. They're coming off of a couple of demoralizing losses in a row, a 48-7 loss to Lake Brantley a year ago. So but the good thing about having district play is that as far as the districts are concerned, you're 0-0. So if FPC can come out and win on Friday, all of a sudden they're 1-0 in district play, and they are 2 wins away from a playoff spot. So still a lot of hope for FPC, despite the 3 losses, despite the injuries. They can spend this past week getting healthy, and should be ready to go Friday night against the University Titans.
And we will be there. That's the game of the week for WNZF. We will have that game right here, 7 p.m. Friday night. That's September 26th. University at FPC on your radio dial. When we come back, how did we do on our NFL picks last week? And how did our teams do? All that and more coming up on the Rich and Mike Sports Show after this.
Thank you so much for recommending us to your family and friends. When you need a 30, 60, or 90-minute massage, it's real easy to book your appointment online. MassageByNatalie.org. MassageByNatalie.org.
Get ready. Monday Night Football is coming to Everbank Stadium October 6th. And this is a matchup you won't want to miss. Your Jacksonville Jaguars are throwing it back in their Prowler jersey as they take on the Kansas City Chiefs under the primetime lights. Don't wait. Be a part of the action. Get your tickets now by visiting us online at jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. We can't wait to see you at the bank for primetime football.
Rich and Mike Sports Show, Saturday morning. Mike, rough week on the picks last week for you. You were 0. Every game was close, but you were 0-3. I was 3-0, I'm very proud to say. So on the season, I'm 4-2. You're 1-5. Why don't we start there? One of the games that you picked and you lost very close on was that Jacksonville-Cincinnati game, and it was an entertaining game indeed.
It was, but I'm starting to think, I hate to say it because I'm starting to think that maybe Trevor Lawrence isn't going to be the quarterback that he's thought to be. And I think a lot of people have already felt that way, but I was kind of holding out hope that, this is year 5. This would be the year he turns around. And he had a solid performance in week 1. He threw 3 interceptions. You can't lose a game in which Joe Burrow leaves the game early in the game with an injury. You have to take advantage of that. The defense had 3 turnovers. The defense is playing great. They played tough physical defense both games so far, and the offense just can't sustain. They can run the ball, but the passing game, so many drops. Brian Thomas, alligator arms, a pass over a middle. He drops a critical 4th down that pretty much gave the game. Trevor missing his receivers high. He's been inaccurate. You see him and Coach Liam Cohen kind of having an exchange in the middle of a play where Cohen started yelling at him and he waved him off. And it's just been turmoil. But despite all that, Bayshaw Tootin's become a great player for them. They traded Tank Bigsby because of how well he's playing at running back. De'Ami Brown, he's not putting up super great numbers in the receiving corps, but he's getting big first down catches. He's making big blocks. Brenton Strange is playing well at tight end. The offensive line is protecting well. There's so many things to like about this Jaguar team, but at the end of the day, last week, Cincinnati ended up winning 31-27. And I know 31 points is a lot, but you can't put it all on defense. You give a team 3 extra opportunities in the NFL, it's just like we saw last night. You give any team extra opportunities, there's a chance you're going to lose the game.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I saw that where Cohen's kind of looked like he was motioning to. You have to hit him in stride or hit him in the chest. It's like, what is this, high school football? And Lawrence kind of waves him off. So maybe something to that. But the other thing about Burrow going out early in this game is Browning came, and they have a lot of faith in Browning over there as a backup quarterback. He's had some success as the backup quarterback in Cincinnati. It's been hard to keep Burrow upright with that offensive line over the years now. So you've seen a lot of Jake Browning last couple of years. Browning comes into this game, throws 3 interceptions, and you still lose. So that's got to be extremely disappointing. You knock out the star quarterback, the backup comes in, throws 3 interceptions, and somehow you still lose that game. So that is not a good sign for the Jaguars. And you had the Jaguars winning by minus 3.5, right? Plus 3.5.
Plus 3.5.
Plus
and they lost by 4.
So it was a tough one for you there as well. How about the Jets, Mike? How do you go from being so competitive that first week? I mean, what a difference a week makes. They look so competitive that first week against the Steelers. A lot of people were feeling good about it, moral victories. They go out there and get clobbered by the Bills. Back to the same old, what we keep seeing year after year after year after year. The Jets just non-competitive in this game. You never had a shot in it. And on top of that, to make it worse, the quarterback that looked so good and made you feel like, well, maybe there's something here, looked as bad as he's ever looked. Missed so many passes. Then, you have him in a 30-3 game, Aaron Glenn, and he gets a concussion, right? So that was maybe the worst offensive performance, and they have had plenty over the past couple of years, but they were terrible. So the Jets, as good as you felt about them week 1, last week, that was back to the same old. What else can you say?
Justin Fields comes off of arguably the best game he's had in his entire career, and like you said, has the worst game in his entire career. I don't completely fault Aaron Glenn for having Fields in the game at that point, because this is something that drives me nuts that NFL coaches always do. They don't take their starters out. You're up 40 points, you're down 40 points. They're leaving their starters in the game. And I understand that, in the NFL, it's not like college where you have 100 kids on the roster, so you can find 22 kids to put on the field. You don't necessarily have the depth to replace all 22 players. But you better dang sure make sure that you're replacing your starting quarterback, because that's the guy you don't want to get hurt. And yet we see it not just in the Jets game, but time and time again, teams are either way ahead or way behind and still leaving their quarterbacks in there. So I don't like it. I don't fault Aaron Glenn not completely anyway, because it's kind of the norm in the NFL, even though it shouldn't be.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Just about a minute and a half left here, so I'll run through my picks this week. I am 4-2 on the season. I'm proud to say that now. I might not be advertising my record in a couple weeks, but here we go. I'll go for it. I'm going to take LA plus 3.5 over Philly. Philly, yeah, they're 2-0, but they showed some holes and barely winning some games there. And a lot of people feel that the Rams are ready to prove that they're one of the top teams in the NFL with that coaching staff and that quarterback and what they got going on there. So I'm going to take the Rams plus 3.5 over Philly. I am going to take Washington minus 2.5 over Vegas. I like that spread in that game, and I don't believe in Vegas. And you're going to laugh at me, but I am going to take the New York Jets plus 6.5 over Tampa Bay. Tampa's another team that has been winning some close games. They have a devastated offensive line. I think this is a good game for the Jets to bounce. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I'm expecting them to be competitive and keep it within a touchdown. So LA Rams plus 3.5, Washington minus 2.5, the Jets plus 6.5.
Colts minus 4.5 over the Titans. I like Dallas over 1.5 1.5 over the Bears. And then, believe it or not, I like the Los Angeles Chargers minus 2.5 against Denver. The 8 ball has Kansas City and Detroit on Sunday and Monday. And actually, the 8 ball picked Miami and won plus 12 on Thursday.
Yay for the 8 ball. All right.
8 ball is now 5-2 on the season going into tomorrow.
So the 8 ball is winning. What can you do? So actually pretty even with me. That's another episode of the Rich and Mike Sports Show. We will see you on Friday at FPC. Have a great weekend, Flagler County.